Revealed, she rented a $2 millionaire boyfriend, only to discover he was her unexpected past love. Emily stood behind the counter of the diner, a cold mug of coffee in hand, staring at the endless barrage of bills that threatened to drown her. In a crumbling neighborhood where dreams seemed to fade like the paint on the walls, she was a devoted single mother, determined to carve a better future for her young son, Max. She could push through the sleepless nights and the relentless grind, but the pressure of providing hung heavy like a thick fog. What if there was a way to escape? Just once. As she scrolled through an app one evening, her eyes landed on an odd service: rent a boyfriend. For a few dollars, she could borrow a charm-laden companion for a night. She chuckled lightly, half interested and half incredulous. But as the weight of her life twisted her gut, she felt a flicker of hope. Could a rented boyfriend be the solution to the hollow events she felt too unworthy to join? With a deep breath, she browsed profiles, and there he was, Jake. Strikingly handsome, charismatic, and somehow he felt familiar. Perfect. Just perfect, she whispered, her heart racing. When they met, he was everything listed and more. They navigated glitzy parties as if Emily had belonged there all along, laughter tumbling effortlessly from her lips. Each brush of his shoulder felt electric. Gone were her insecurities, replaced by a lightness that enveloped her like warm sunshine. But everything changed one night when they shared a quiet moment under twinkling fairy lights, secrets flowing like a gentle stream. Jake's smile danced with the lost boy she once knew, the one who promised her the world before tragedy tore them apart. "Emily," he said softly, "it's been a long time." Her heart clenched, memory swirling. Jake had vanished after his family's accident, leaving her to navigate her own struggles alone. Suddenly, the spark ignited a flood of emotions. She laughed, but it felt bittersweet. Could this charming millionaire really be the same boy from her past? Memories of holding hands, of shared dreams, flooded her senses. But would he still remember those promises, too? The air grew thick with tension. The whispers of the privileged around her, the laughter that felt mocking, reminded her of where she came from and how different their worlds were. Could she allow herself to fall again? Torn between the warmth of rekindled love and her ambition to lift Max and herself out of despair, she felt the options before her shift like shadows. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Conflicted, Emily confronted Jake, begging for clarity. There was a longing in her chest, wrapped with desperation. For every laugh they shared, every step forward felt crushed by judgments that threatened to pull her back. But his response was shocking, trembling her trust. Was he just a viral sensation, or was there something deeper? As the truth unraveled, the support of her community emerged like an unexpected ally, rallying around her against doubters. Emily stood at the precipice of her past and future. She felt the weight of shared memories with Jake intertwining with the hopes she had for Max. Could love still thrive beneath the code of life's harsh realities? Or would Emily be forced to leave behind the one person who understood her heart? The moment of truth hung in the air, leaving her breathless, thin threads of destiny poised for a breakthrough or a shatter. Emily paced the tiny apartment, her heart racing. Jake's unexpected reappearance sent ripples through everything she thought she knew. After all this time, was he the same boy with the kind smile who promised to always be there? Or had the years and his wealthy lifestyle changed him beyond recognition? Max's laughter from the living room drew her attention. He was playing with the neighbor's kid, blissfully unaware of his mother's turmoil. Watching him, she felt a pang of both love and guilt. Could she afford to introduce him to Jake? The idea of exposing her son to this complicated world of wealth felt both thrilling and terrifying. What if Jake didn't want anything to do with them once the shine of their connection wore off? The thought churned in her mind until she finally settled on her phone, fingers trembling as she typed a message to Jake. "Can we talk? There's too much between us." She hit send and waited, her breath hitching at the sudden burst of vulnerability. Seconds felt like an eternity. When her phone buzzed moments later, she practically leaped to grab it, her heart thrumming. "Of course, Emily. Can we meet at the cafe tomorrow? I want to clear the air." Her stomach dropped slightly at the thought of returning to the place they had once visited as teenagers, where laughter and dreams filled the air. Back then, they spoke of futures that felt closer than the stars. But now? Would they just be echoes of something lost, attempts to bridge a gap that had grown far too wide? The next day, Emily arrived at the cafe early, anxiety tightening in her chest. The smell of fresh coffee and baked goods filled the air, but all she could taste was fear. She fidgeted with her hair and glanced at every person who walked through the door, heart leaping in her throat each time until finally, she saw him. Jake's familiar frame strode in, exuding the same magnetic energy she remembered, though now wrapped in tailored clothing that screamed sophistication. His eyes caught hers, and for a moment, everything else blurred into the background. He approached, a soft smile gracing his lips, but she could see an undercurrent of unease beneath it. "Hey, Emily," he said, his voice warm and inviting, instantly washing over her like a familiar song. But it also felt weighted with questions unasked. "Hey, Jake." The word nearly caught in her throat. She gestured to the empty chair across from her, and felt her stomach twist as he sat down. "I wanted to talk about us. Or whatever this is." Jake's expression shifted, brows furrowing as if he was grappling with his own thoughts. "I know this is complicated? She interjected, feeling the heat rise in her cheeks. "Complicated is an understatement. You just vanished. I thought I'd lost you forever." "I never meant to hurt you, Emily." "I had no choice," he said, the regret in his voice palpable. "I thought about you every day." Her breath hitched at his confession. "But you're living a different life now, Jake. It's not just you anymore. I have Max." At the mention of her son, she saw a flicker of something in his eyes, recognition mixed with hesitation. "I want to know him. I want to know both of you." Her heart fluttered at the thought, but doubts mingled with hope. Could this truly be possible? Could they rebuild a future together, no matter the past? The air between them crackled with tension, the weight of unspoken dreams hanging in the balance. With the moment unfolding before her, Emily had to decide, should she embrace the possibility of love rekindled, or protect her heart and Max from the uncertainty that lay ahead? And as she opened her mouth to speak, she felt the world around them fade, leaving just the two of them on the precipice of something monumental. What would she choose? The silence stretched between them, a fragile bridge over a chasm of memories and unspoken words. Emily's heart thudded loudly. She had come here, hoping for clarity, yet uncertainty loomed, thick and heavy. "Jake, can we really go back to whatever this was? The boy I knew doesn't exist in your world anymore." She paused, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I think I've built a life without you. It's just me and Max. I don't want to append that." He studied her, his gaze intense and unwavering. "I want to be part of your life again, Emily. I want to meet Max. I know I'm not the same person, but I need you to understand that I've changed for the better. I want to make things right." She felt a rush of conflicting emotions, anger, nostalgia, and the flutter of hope. Was this all too good to be true? She wanted to believe him, but the years had forged a barrier. What does that even look like? How can we blend our worlds? "I'll make it work." "I've missed so much already," Jake insisted, his earnestness piercing through her doubts. "I can help. We can work through it together. I just need a chance." The cafe buzzed around them. An older couple laughed at a nearby table, and the barista clanked mugs. But all Emily could hear was the echo of Jake's words, reverberating in the small space between them. She thought of Max, of his innocent laughter and world full of simplicity. Was it fair to disrupt that for something uncertain? Taking a deep breath, she asked, "Why now, Jake? Why after all this time?" He leaned in, his voice low, yet full of urgency. "I realize that money and status don't matter without the people you love. I left because I thought I had to, but I'd give it all up to be with you two now. Her heart clenched. You can't just stroll back into my life and expect it to be easy. What if it doesn't work out? What if it's just another mistake? You won't know unless you give it a chance, he replied, his voice steady. Let me meet Max. Let us see if we can build something from this. The thought sent waves of anxiety crashing through her. Could her son accept this man, the one she had loved and lost? She couldn't shield Max from heartbreak forever, but was she ready to expose him to the risk of loss again? Suddenly, Jake reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Emily, look at me. I'm here, right here. I want to be a family. We can shape our own narrative. She looked deep into his eyes, searching for the boy she once loved. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver of longing through her. But could their past truly be a foundation for a future? The stakes felt too high. As she hesitated, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a reminder of her world waiting outside the cafe walls. She pulled it out, her heart sinking as she read the message from her neighbor. Everything okay? Max is asking about you. Emily's mind raced. She glanced back at Jake, questions thick in the air. Should she open this door, or slam it shut once and for all? With a shaking voice, she made her choice. Let us take it slow. For Max, Jake nodded, relief washing over his features. But underneath lay the lingering uncertainty. As they settled into careful conversation, a part of Emily wondered, could the past ever truly be left behind, or would the weight of it constantly pull them down? And as they began to rewrite their story, she sensed a storm was brewing on the horizon, threatening everything. Would they weather it or drown in the waves ahead? Emily sat back in her chair, her mind a swirl of thoughts. Each moment with Jake felt like a push and pull between the past and a future she was uncertain of. She felt his eyes on her as she weighed the implications of using this second chance, but deep down, anxiety gnawed at her resolve. I should go, she finally said, breaking the rhythm of their conversation. Max needs me. I left him with Mrs. Thompson, but I don't want to keep him waiting too long. She withdrew her hand from under his, feeling the absence of warmth almost painfully. Of course, Jake nodded, understanding visible in the lines of his face. I don't want to disrupt your life. Just think about what I said. Once she stepped outside, the crisp air hit her like a splash of cold water, pushing a wave of clarity through her thoughts. Max was waiting at home, blissfully unaware of the emotional upheaval spinning in his mother's heart. She could picture him, his curls bouncing as he dashed around the living room, filled with innocent joy. The walk home felt heavy. Each step echoed the questions racing through her mind. Could they really make a life together? Or was this a nostalgia-driven fantasy? When she finally opened the door to her home, the familiar scent of cookie dough wafted through the air. Max was at the kitchen table, flour dusting his hands as he stirred a bowl. Mom, I made cookies, he exclaimed, his smile lighting up the room. Oh wow, you're a chef now, huh? She ruffled his hair, the warmth of his laughter flooding her heart. How could she risk this happiness? I used your recipe. Well, kind of. I added sprinkles. He grinned, proudly presenting his sugary concoction. Emily chuckled, the weight of her earlier meetings starting to lighten, but shadows still loomed in the corners of her mind. Max, darling, can we sit for a moment? I need to talk to you about something. His expression shifted to curiosity, his small hands stilling. What is it? Remember the story I told you about my friend Jake? Well, he's back in town and wants to meet us, she started, watching his expression closely. And I know he was part of my life before you came along. Max seemed to contemplate this. He was the one who went away, right? Yes. But he has changed, and I think he wants to help us, to be in our lives again. I want you to know that it may be different, she explained carefully, gauging Max's response. But do you want him to come here? Max asked, his eyes wide with an innocence that struck Emily straight to her core. Taking a moment, she realized that it wasn't just about her feelings, it was about creating new memories together. That's what I'm trying to figure out, buddy. What do you think? Max considered this, his brow furrowing comically. Can we still eat cookies with him? Emily laughed, her heart buoyed by his simplicity. Yes, We can even bake cookies together if you want to. Then let us do it. But no veggies, all right? He grinned cheekily, and in that moment, Emily felt the weight of uncertainty lift just a bit. The evening passed in a flurry of laughter and flower-filled kitchen antics, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at a crossroads. Could this really work? Was she ready to open her heart again? As Max climbed into bed, he yawned, sleep pulling at his eyelids. Mom, do you think he'll like me? I hope so, sweetie. I really do. And as she kissed him goodnight, a thought danced at the edge of her mind. What if this was the beginning of something beautiful or a pathway to heartache? She turned off the light, staring into the darkness, a chorus of questions rising within. Maybe it was time to reconnect with the past. But as she lay down, feeling the silence envelop her, she couldn't shake the chilling worry that trouble was still lurking just beyond reach. The next day would be pivotal. How would Jake's return really unfold? Emily woke up to the sound of sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains of her bedroom. With a deep breath, she tried to shake off the heaviness that clung to her from the night before. Today was the day she had agreed to let Jake into their lives. As she started her morning routine, her thoughts were tangled in a web of hope and fear. She brewed coffee, the familiar aroma drifting through the air while she glanced at the clock. Time seemed to move slowly, each tick reminding her of the hour they'd agreed to meet. She had planned every detail in her mind, the coffee shop, the cinnamon buns, how she'd keep the conversation light. But could she really be casual when everything felt so monumental? Mom, can I have some cereal? Max's voice broke through her concentration. His face was still sleepy, but his energy was already bubbling just below the surface. Cereal's coming right up. And don't forget we have a special guest today, she said, trying to infuse some excitement into her tone. Max's eyes lit up. Is it time for cookies now? He hopped from foot to foot, as if he were the one with butterflies in his stomach. Not just yet, buddy. We have to greet Jake first. Remember? Oh, right. He turned serious, wiping his hands on his pajama pants. Do you think he'll like me? Like, really like me? Emily knelt beside him, looking him in the eyes. He's going to love you, Max. You're the best kid ever. Just be yourself. Okay, Max said, beaming with his usual enthusiasm. As they walked to the coffee shop, the sun brightened the streets, but Emily couldn't shake the shadows in her mind. What if Jake's presence didn't fit into their lives as seamlessly as she hoped? What if Max didn't connect with him? She pushed those worries aside and focused on the laughter coming from her son, who was singing a silly song about cookies. Arriving at the coffee shop, Emily spotted Jake sitting at a table in the back, his eyes scanning the room. When they met, their gaze held for a second longer than was perhaps appropriate, a rush of unspoken history passing between them. She felt her chest tighten, excitement and nerves battling for dominance. Hey, you made it, Jake said, standing as they approached. Hey, this is my son, Max, she introduced, feeling a swell of pride at his side. Max, oblivious to the undercurrents of emotion, grinned wide. Hi, I'm the Cookie Chief. Jake crouched down, his face lighting up. Hey there, Cookie Chief. I hear we're going to bake cookies together later? Max nodded vigorously. With sprinkles. Sprinkles are the best. Jake replied, and Emily couldn't help but notice the genuine warmth in his tone. They settled into their seats, but as conversation flowed, Emily detected a shift. Jake was more mature, but certain familiarities were still there as chuckles, the way his eyes sparkled when he spoke. It made her heart flutter and her stomach twist. Remember the time we tried to make that chocolate cake and it turned into a disaster? Jake's laughter rang out like a bell. Oh my gosh, I do. Emily replied, feeling lighter. For a brief moment, it was just the two of them, transported back to simpler times. Yet as Max excitedly recounted his cookie-making progress, Emily felt a knot tightening in her chest again. Was this just nostalgia for Jake, or was there genuinely a chance for something more? You know, I'm really glad to see you again, Jake said, looking intently at her. Things are different now, I get that, but before he could finish, a strong gust of wind blew open the door, interrupting their moment. A woman in a tailored suit walked in, her eyes scanning the room, landing on Jake. Emily's heart raced. Something about the way the woman held herself felt familiar. Did she know Jake? Jake? She called, walking towards their table. Emily's smile faltered, an unsettling feeling surging within her. The woman's eyes sparkled with recognition as she reached them. I didn't expect to see you here. Emily clenched her hands to keep calm, wondering just how connected their past really was and what surprises today might still unveil. Who was this woman, and what would she mean for their lives moving forward? The woman paused, her gaze flickering between Jake and Emily, a mix of surprise and intrigue painting her features. For a moment, the world around them faded. The chatter of the coffee shop and the sound of clinking mugs became muffled, replaced by the pulsing rhythm of Emily's racing heart. Who is she? Jake, the woman started again, her voice smooth but edged with a hint of excitement. It's been a while, hasn't it? Emily tried to read Jake's expression. Was it surprise that crossed his face, or something more? It was difficult to tell, as emotions played a game of hide-and-seek behind his bright blue eyes. Yeah, it has, Jake replied, a tightness in his voice. Wendy, right? That's right, she smiled. It was a confident smile, one that commanded attention, leaving Emily feeling painfully small. Wendy extended her hand towards Emily, like a peace offering wrapped in an expensive sleeve. And you must be Emily. I've heard so much about you. Max, perched like a small bird on the edge of his seat, shifted nervously, but didn't say anything. Emily managed to shake Wendy's hand, the touch surprisingly firm. Nice to meet you, Emily said, her voice steady even as her insides nodded. Wendy's expression shifted slightly as she looked at Max. So, you're the cookie chief I've heard all about, she said, kneeling closer to him. That sounds like a very important job. Max nodded, still wide-eyed. We're going to make the biggest cookies ever. Jake couldn't help but chuckle at Max's enthusiasm, but Emily could see the tension tight across his shoulders. She searched Wendy's face, wanting to find something reassuring, but all she saw was a woman ready to step back into their lives. The realization made a bitter taste rise in her throat. So, what brings you here today? Wendy asked, tilting her head, the light catching in her perfectly styled hair. There was something almost predatory in her gaze, as if she had come to hunt down a secret. Jake hesitated, and in that pause, Emily's thoughts raced. Did Jake have unfinished business with Wendy? Was this a romantic rival? Would she stand a chance at building a life with him when this elegant woman was sitting right here? We met to bake cookies, Jake finally said, his tone light, but Emily could detect the heaviness beneath. Cookies, huh? Wendy posed, looking amused. Well, that sounds charming. I'd love to join, if that's all right. Max's eyes lit up at the potential of more cookie-fueled fun. But instead of waiting for Jake or Emily's response, he piped up, yes. The more, the merrier. A smile quirked on Wendy's lips. Emily's heart sank lower. Did they really want her here? Was she still part of this, or was she merely a backdrop in someone else's story? Jake shifted slightly in his seat, his brow furrowing as he faced Emily and then Wendy. I don't think, but Wendy interrupted him, her voice rising smoothly above the din of the cafe. Oh, come on. Don't tell me you're scared to bake with just a few friends. We can make this a fun little gathering. Bring back the old days, right? Who doesn't love a good reunion? Emily's breath caught, the air thick with jealousy and confusion. Did Jake think this was a joke? In her mind, while all she wanted was to create new memories, Wendy's presence threatened to erase the steps they might take forward. Maybe we should discuss this a little more, Jake said, but his voice trailed off under the rising chatter and laughter of the cafe, leaving uncertainty hanging in the air like an uninvited guest. Emily's grip on the table tightened. How could they bake cookies together with such unresolved history hovering above? It felt like an impossible task, one made even harder by Wendy's alluring confidence. Could Jake really pick up where they left off, or had the past simply caught up to him in ways she had never anticipated? Max, still oblivious to the emotional undercurrents, was already dreaming about sprinkles and chocolate chips. But for Emily, The ground beneath her was shifting, and she wasn't too sure if she could stay balanced. As she raised her head to meet Jake's gaze, a storm of emotions swirled within her. Would he make a choice today about who he wanted to be? Would she? Jake opened his mouth to say something, but the noise of the coffee shop overshadowed his next words, leaving Emily teetering on the edge of uncertainty. With her heart racing, Emily felt a sudden clarity. She would need to push past the shadows of their shared history. But could she find the strength to hold her ground, or would she have to fight for her place in Jake's life? The door swung open again, and a sudden rush of autumn wind chilled the air, bringing with it a new wave of anticipation. Another moment was unfolding, and Emily wondered just how much more she could take, or what new surprises awaited them. Emily's mind swirled, grappling with the unexpected surge of emotions ignited by Wendy's presence. It was as if each glance exchanged with Jake was tethered to an unspoken narrative, a story that had been brewing long before Emily had stepped into the picture. She could almost hear the echo of their shared laughter, the old inside jokes that felt like a secret language she wasn't part of. Max, oblivious to the whirlwind around him, continued to jabber cheerfully about cookie shapes and monster-sized treats. His innocent excitement cut through the tension like a warm knife through cold butter. In that moment, Emily realized how much she wanted to safeguard that joy, his enthusiasm palpable and infectious. She needed to ensure that whatever happened next didn't dim the light shining in her son's eyes. "Emily?" Jake's voice broke through the haze, pulling her back into the moment. His blue eyes were searching hers, a flicker of determination in his usually calm demeanor. "Yeah?" she replied, trying to mask the heavy weight in her chest. He hesitated, the uncharacteristic nervousness catching her off guard. "Do you think we can just try it? Let us bake together. Max wants it. And Wendy, it might be nice to see her, right?" His words hung in the air, a fragile truce in a land of confusion. As the other patrons in the cafe filled the room with laughter and chatter, Emily inexplicably felt like they were somehow isolated from the rest of the world. She took a deep breath, feeling every bit of the weight pressing down on her shoulders. Yes, this was what she wanted, to share joyful moments with Max, to create traditions as a family. But alongside that aspiration came the reality that Wendy's presence threatened to fracture those dreams. "I think," Emily said slowly, picking her words like ripe fruit off a tree, "that sharing those moments would require more than cake batter. It requires everyone to be on the same page." Wendy tilted her head slightly, her expression inscrutable. "Oh, I'm all about being on the same page, Emily. That's what reunions are for." Her tone was flirtatious, as if she was drawing a map of familiarity that made Emily feel like an outsider. Jake's jaw tightened, the confusion growing, and for a flickering moment, Emily saw the battle taking place inside him. Was he torn between the past and the present? I mean, who knows? Wendy continued, that same seductive smile dancing on her lips. "Maybe we could even make it a team effort. Like we used to." The reminder felt heavy like a stone dropped in still water, sending ripples through the air. Memories flared up, regulated by the rush of laughter and love that didn't include Emily. A pang of jealousy pierced through her, amplifying what she already feared. She might not be as important to Jake as she thought. "Mommy?" Max's voice called, breaking the tension. "Can we make cookies now?" His excitement broke over their conversation like an unyielding tide, and Emily turned to him, imagining what would happen if she refused. "We can," she finally said, glancing at Jake, seeking his affirmation. "Together, a team." Jake opened his mouth to respond, but Wendy's voice surged again, insistent, wrapping the moment in her charm. "How lovely. I'll gather the ingredients. Who doesn't love a kitchen filled with dessert aromas?" Emily clenched her fists, feeling the weight of a past she hadn't been a part of, slowly folding back into their lives like an unwanted guest. The tension stretched between them, and she wondered what shadows lay in Wendy's charm. "Maybe we should," Jake began again, but before he could finish, another familiar face entered the cafe, a blast from the past. Emily's heart leaped. Was it the very person who could tip this precarious balance? "Is that?" She couldn't breathe, staring wide-eyed as the door swung open. Every heartbeat drummed into an eerie silence as she tried to make sense of what was unfolding, and just like that, she felt herself teetering on the brink of change. Would this new arrival ignite a spark of chaos? Or would it pave a way toward clarity she desperately sought? The moment stretched, holding a promise of surprises yet to come, and Emily's heart pounded with an intensity she had never felt before. What would happen when old friendships collided with new commitments? Only time would tell. Emily squinted, trying to focus on the figure stepping inside the cafe. The sudden rush of memories was like a tidal wave, pulling her under and crashing against her heart. Could it really be? It was her Ben. The one who had walked away, leaving behind a tapestry of what could have been. A familiar warmth spread through her, intermingling with the confusion that already engulfed her. Max's delighted shout broke the spell. Ben! Look, it's Uncle Ben! He leaped off his chair, waving his arms in excitement. Jake's face mirrored shock, his eyes darting from Emily to Ben, the last remnants of their shared past overshadowing the present. Hey, buddy! Ben exclaimed, crouching to pull Max into a bear hug, his laughter filling the cafe with a resonance that made Emily's heart ache. She could hardly breathe, grounded by the weight of the moment. Wow, you're huge, Max declared, his innocent exuberance easing some of the tension. How have you been? Ben's friendly eyes found Emily's, and for the briefest moment, she felt that connection ignite again. The years melted away, leaving only that familiar comfort. But she blinked, grappling with the memories that surged unwanted and fierce. I'm doing well, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Long time no see. He smiled then, the kind of smile that always made her weak in the knees. She felt her resolve waver, pulling on the threads of nostalgia that whispered, what if? Yeah, it's been a while, she replied, attempting to keep the emotions at bay. What was he doing back here? What did it mean for her and Jake? I was just stopping by to see you all. Wendy told me you were baking cookies, he said offhandedly, a hint of mischief dancing in his tone. Wendy, noticing the shift in the air, suddenly materialized next to Ben, resting a hand on his shoulder. Look who just strolled in. Perfect timing for our cookie extravaganza. Uncle Ben is here to help. She winked playfully at Max, who was practically bouncing. Jake's jaw tightened again, his eyes narrowing at the two of them. Emily could feel the tension simmering, and it threatened to bubble over. Was everyone going to treat this like a casual reunion? Ben's gaze flicked to Jake, surprise etched on his face. So, you've been keeping busy, huh? His voice was neutral, but Emily could sense an unspoken question lurking beneath. Yeah, life, you know, Jake muttered curtly, his eyes flicking between Ben and Emily, confusion mounting like a storm cloud. Let us all bake together, Max suggested, a spontaneous grin stretching across his face. It'll be fun. Emily couldn't help but smile at her son's enthusiasm, but her heart raced as she looked at the four of them: Max, Ben, Wendy, and Jake. It was a delicate dance of past entwined with present, and she had no idea how to navigate it. Sure. Let us make some cookies, Emily finally said, forcing her voice to sound lighter than her heart felt. As they gathered around the cafe's small kitchen station, a palpable tension hung in the air. Flour flew as everyone started mixing, laughter bounced off the walls, and undercurrents of emotions twisted and turned. Max was in his element, reveling in the chaos of fun, while Emily silently wrestled with the choices looming before her. Just as they were getting into the rhythm, the front door swung open again. A shout of surprise echoed through the cafe, and a woman entering caught everyone's attention, her demeanor bold and unapologetic. Did I miss the party? She called out, her voice swirling with playful mischief. Emily's stomach dropped. This was not just anyone. This was Claire, Ben's college girlfriend. The one no one ever forgot. A rush of feelings shook her, intertwining envy with disbelief. The room stilled, and every face turned toward her, waiting for the next scene to unfold. Emily stood frozen, the sweet aroma of baking cookies replaced by the heavy scent of uncertainty that lingered. Her mind raced. What kind of reunion was this going to be? Would the past claim a space in the present, or could she draw a line and reshape her future? As the sudden tension crackled in the air, Emily knew the stakes had just been raised. But would she be strong enough to face the tidal wave of emotions crashing over her? The air was thick with the promise of revelations to come, leaving Emily poised on the brink of a life-changing moment. What would she decide when everything she knew began to unravel? Emily felt a jolt of recognition as Claire strolled in, her confident gait unmistakable. Claire's bright red lipstick and polished appearance radiated a charisma that made Emily feel small. The cafe's vibrant atmosphere transformed, turning from warmth to something colder, more complicated. Laughter faded, shadows danced between them, and for a moment it was as if time had rewound, thrusting them all back to college days. Ben's reaction was immediate. "Claire." His voice held a nostalgic thrill, as if he were unwrapping a long-lost treasure. He stood a little taller, his smile widening. "I didn't know you were back in town. Just visiting." "I couldn't resist swinging by," Claire responded, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she glanced over at Max, bending down to engage him. "Who is this big guy? Are you baking cookies? That sounds amazing." "Max," he shouted proudly, puffing his chest out. "We're making chocolate chip." "Chocolate chip, huh? My favorite." Claire grinned as she tousled his hair. Emily felt like an outsider in her own life. Between Max's innocent excitement and Ben's warmth, a tight knot formed in her chest. Jake stood to the side, looking increasingly uncomfortable as Claire lavished attention on their son. His expression was dark, the tension in his shoulders telling Emily he felt the gravity of the situation too. "Looks like a full house here," Claire said, glancing around. "I hope I'm not crashing a family reunion?" Her tone was playful, but the undercurrent of challenge in her words echoed like a bell. "No, not at all," Emily quickly interjected, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We were just baking together." She could feel the heat on her cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and something deeper, something like betrayal that she hadn't anticipated feeling in front of Ben. Why was her heart racing? "Great. I love cookie dough." Claire's laugh was infectious, pulling everyone back into the moment, except for Jake, who seemed determined to remain on the periphery. "Maybe we should get back to the dough," he said coolly, glancing at Ben. The weight of his stare was heavy, filled with unspoken words. Emily wished she could read his thoughts. "Everybody, let us get to it." Ben clapped his hands together as if trying to bring levity back. He stepped closer to the counter, becoming the focal point once again. "What do I do first?" Max jumped at the chance, explaining the mixing process with the flair of a master chef. Emily watched torn. A part of her was relieved to see the warmth returning. A part of her was scared by how easily everything had shifted under Claire's presence. As they settled back into the rhythm of baking, Claire leaned against the counter, observing them all with a bright smile. Emily caught Ben's sneak glances at Claire, and she felt each glance like a knife twisting deeper into her heart. She didn't want to feel jealous. She didn't want to care. The dough began to form, scattering flour and sugar everywhere, but the chaos mirrored the confusion battling inside Emily. Just when she thought they might be able to ignore the past, Claire chimed in, "So, have you two heard from our old pal, Sam?" "I miss those crazy college days." "Sam?" Jake echoed, clearly uncomfortable. "Yeah, he is doing well. Moved to Seattle and all that," Ben said, grinning as he took a moment to bask in the memories. As Claire's stories flowed, the others laughed and shared tidbits of their own lives. Emily felt the fabric of their reunion unraveling, threatened by memories of moments long buried. With every laugh from Ben, her heart sank just a little more. As the baking chaos continued, a silence crept over the group, a pause heavy with unspoken tension. Claire's gaze shifted to Emily, her eyes narrowing with curiosity. "So, Emily, what have you been up to besides baking?" The question hung in the air like a thread waiting to unravel, and for a heartbeat, Emily was paralyzed. Did Claire know? Did Ben share their history with her? The cafe seemed to close in, walls conspiring to trap her in this moment of exposure. Emily took a deep breath. Choice loomed before her. Would she let the past bleed into the present? Looking toward Jake, then to Ben, she felt the weight of all their eyes on her. What was she prepared to reveal, and how would it change everything? Just then, the timer on the oven chimed, and everyone jumped, shattering the tension momentarily. But in that instant, Emily knew that the truth was a fire that demanded to be reckoned with, and she was standing on the edge of the flames. What was she going to do when the timer struck down the walls she had built around herself? Emily stood frozen as the timer buzzed, the sound slicing through the air like a call to arms. Everyone turned toward the oven, but she felt like she was standing in a spotlight, the weight of all their expectations pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, the warmth filling her lungs, and made a decision. "Well, besides baking, I've been raising this little guy," she said, tossing a glance at Max, whose excitement was bubbling over as he jumped back and forth, eager to taste the cookies. "And trying to figure out how to build a life for us." "Max is a lucky kid to have you," Claire replied, her tone surprisingly sincere, but Emily could sense the underlying curiosity waiting to unravel. "Yeah, he really is," Jake chimed in, his voice steadied now, creating a buffer against the chaos of their gathering. Her heart soared a little. He believed in her, even in this muddled mess. "Let us see those cookies." Ben clapped as he turned to the oven, pulling out the tray. A sweet scent wafted through the air, enveloping the room in warm, sugary nostalgia. Their cookies were baked to perfection, golden brown and glistening, and though they were a mix of flour and chaos, they reflected the curious blend of their lives. "All right, everyone, time to eat." Cheerful chatter erupted, but Emily still felt a tight knot of nerves in her stomach. She was hungry for connection, but worried that the bonds of their history would spoil the treats they baked together. As they gathered at a table, the cookies piled high, laughter filled the air, creating a beautiful symphony that seemed to echo both the past and an aching hope for the future. She watched as Max encouraged Claire to try a cookie, a broad grin on his face, and felt a twinge of jealousy again, battling an odd sense of belonging that muddled her heart. "Delicious," Claire said, gleefully crunching into a cookie, drawing Max into conversation about sprinkles. Emily couldn't help but smile at her son's innocent enthusiasm. It was moments like these that reminded her of what she fought so hard to protect: his happiness, their bond, and their future. Wendy suggested they take turns sharing their memories about baking or their childhoods, opening a channel for light-hearted stories. But as Emily shared snippets of the past that included Jake, she could feel Claire's gaze intensifying, searching for something beneath her words. "This is fun. Why haven't we done this before?" Claire asked, her voice ringing with a lilt. It was as if she was auditioning for a role in an unfolding drama, laying claim to a past tangled in nostalgia. "Maybe we can make this a regular thing?" Max piped up, cheeks round with cookie. The glint in his eyes was bright, innocent, pure. It must be nice, she thought, to embrace moments without the weight of years pressed upon their shoulders. As the laughter washed over her, Jake leaned in closer. He whispered, "we should talk about how we're going to navigate this. There's a lot happening. Whatever's buzzing around isn't going to make it easier." His sincerity cut through. Half of her wanted to curl up in relief, the other half anxious about the messiness swirling around. "I know," she said, catching his gaze, trying to convey everything in that one look. "But right now I want to enjoy this. I think Max needs it too." "Yeah," he said softly, squeezing her hand ever so slightly before sitting back, allowing the moment to breathe. But memories weren't dismissed so easily. Just as the chatter eased, a faint sound tugged at Emily's attention. Across the room, she could see Claire leaning into Ben, laughter mingling with whispered secrets. It was unsettling old alliances sneaking back into place. "Shall we make more cookies next time?" Max asked, genuinely excited. The question shifted something inside Emily, reminding her of why she had even let Jake back in. His presence, his support for her and Max was important, despite the drumroll of the past. Before she could voice her answer, Claire glanced over and interjected, "I'd love to bring my recipe for chocolate cake next time." Her tone was casual, almost competitive, igniting a fire within Emily. It wasn't just about cookies anymore. It was about carving out her space amidst everything that was changing, defining what happiness looked like now. She turned to Jake, catching the quick flash of concern in his eyes. "I think that's a great idea. But let us keep it balanced. We can add our own twist." The sentiment hung in the air, and as Claire smirked at her, something cracked within Emily. One breath, then another. She noticed the camaraderie between Max and Ben and felt a surge of warmth at their simple joy. That meant something. Taking a deep breath, she finally spoke with conviction. "Jake and I will handle the baking and memories from now on. We're creating a new tradition, tightly woven with our own experiences." A moment of stillness swept through the room, lingering like the last bite of a cookie. "I want all of us to make new memories. Let us build something beautiful together, no matter who we were," Emily stated, her voice steady, conviction coursing through her veins. Jake nodded, pride shining in his eyes, and in that moment, Emily realized that the ghosts of their past were necessary not to be hidden but transformed. As laughter erupted again, she sensed the air shift, the tension that once held the weight of memories now becoming threads of promise. They were painting their lives anew together. The faces surrounding her brightened, filled with hope, and within her heart, an unshakable belief took root she could embrace love again, without losing herself. With a smile breaking through the clouds of uncertainty, she reached out and took Jake's hand. Tonight was a celebration of every cookie, every laugh, every story that led them here. They could rewrite the narrative, and together, they would discover what a new beginning truly looked like. Letting go of the past felt liberating. She returned to the laughter, the cookies, and her son's wide smile, remembering that sometimes the best things arise from the messiest moments. And amidst the chaos of baking, bittersweet laughter, and blooming possibilities, she felt a flicker of hope cascading through her heart, a hope that beautifully intertwined with the promise of love. If this was what family could be, maybe she had truly begun to find her way home after all. Now, if you're as inspired as I am by Emily's journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and help keep these stories alive. Don't forget to comment your feelings about this ending and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second, show your love.